Hey everyone, welcome to our real interview experience series. As you know, we share our subscribers' interview experience here. So, one of our subscribers, Shubham Kumar Singh, recently cracked Java developer interview at Accenture. He also cracked Oracle that I already shared. So, in this video, I'm gonna share everything about his interview experience, what he shared with me. Okay, and guys, if you have attended any interview recently, then fill the form below in the description. We will reach out to you. You can choose to share your name, photo, and LinkedIn profile, or share your experience anonymously. We are also giving gift cards to the participants, so don't miss out and don't forget to subscribe to catch more videos like this. So now let's get started. So he basically applied through LinkedIn and he is having 3 years of experience. After applying, he received a phone call from HR, which basically his telephonic round. During this round, HR asked some common questions about his current salary, notice period, and location preferences. After that, he had a technical round of about 45 minutes, then an HR round to discuss salary and other related stuff. In this video, I will discuss a technical interview question one by one with providing detailed explanation. The interviewer covered project discussion, core Java, Spring Boot, and coding question. Okay. So the interviewer first started asking about core Java questions, and first he asked what is the difference between collection and collections. So this is an important question. So in Java, collection is a structure used to hold and work with group of objects like a toolbox for managing multiple items, whereas collections is a helper tool that provides useful methods to organize and manage these groups, such as sorting and searching. Then he asked the difference between array list and linked list and which scenario would you use each. So basically, array list allows quick random access to elements, making it ideal for list where we frequently read elements, whereas linked list works in scenarios where we often add or remove elements from the list ends, and it allows fast additions and deletions without impacting the rest of the list. Then interview asked if you try to insert an element into the middle of linked list with 10 million elements, so how will it perform compared to an array list? So inserting an element into the middle of list with 10 million elements can be slow because it has to traverse from the start to the middle. An array list would typically perform faster in this scenario because it allows directly access to any index and making the insertion process quicker. Next, he asked explain the difference between hash map and hash table. So this is also very important. So hash map is not a thread safe and allows one null key and multiple null values and making it suitable for non-concurrent use. Whereas hash map is a thread safe, doesn't allow nulls and is slower due to its synchronization. We should use hash map for speed in single threaded applications and hash table for thread safety. And then he asked why would using a hash table lead to potential issues in a highly concurrent environment though it is synchronized. So this is a tricky question. So using hash table in a highly concurrent environment can lead to issue because its synchronization locks the entire map on each operations and causing significant slowdowns when many threads try to access it simultaneously. This can reduce scalability and performance compared to concurrent collection designed for better thread efficiency. Then he asked how would you design a custom immutable class that uses a collection like array list internally. So to design a custom immutable class with an array list internally, first make the class final, initialize the array list in the constructor and only provide methods to get not set the list elements. Also return a copy of an unmodified view of the list to prevent external modifications. Next, he asked what happens if you add elements to a hash set with duplicates hash code values but different equals implementations. So this is very important question. So adding elements to a hash set that have duplicate hash code values but differ in equals results in both elements being sorted. The hash set uses buckets for each hash code. Elements within the same bucket are then checked using the equals method if they are not equal but are kept separately. Okay, before moving ahead guys, I would like to share one important thing with you. Actually, we have learned complete interview preparation material structure step by step by myself, expert and MNC's interviewers, and the best part is that now no one need to go anywhere else to prepare interviews. There is a 99% chance that interviewers will ask questions from this material. So basically it contains a lot of material categorized by experience level, means each experience level has different material with all possible interview questions and answers for Java, Spring Framework, Maven, Git, Spring Boot, Spring Security, Spring Data JPA, Kafka, microservices, Java coding questions, Stream API coding questions, and many more. I have provided the link to get this in below description, and if someone needs this material, plus 2 real enterprise client projects plus one-on-one lifetime doubt sessions and referrals to the big MNCs, then they should check the interview preparation kit. I'll provide the link for this as well in the description below. So now moving to our interview experience. Then he asks, what is the purpose of constructor? Can constructor be static or final? So constructor initializes a new instance of a class and setting up initial state. Constructor cannot be static because they are explicitly called on class instantiation, not on the class itself. They also cannot be final because they are not inherited, so there is no need to restrict overriding. Then he asked, can a constructor have a return type? If yes, what would it mean for the constructor to return something? So the answer is no, a constructor cannot have a return type. Then interviewer asked, can a constructor be inherited? So no, a constructor cannot be inherited. Each class must define its own constructors. Okay. Then he asked, if a constructor cannot be inherited, can it still be called in a subclass and how? So yes, a constructor from a superclass can be called in a subclass using super method. This is typically done within the subclass constructors to initialize the superclass state before setting up the subclass on properties. And then he asked, can you create an object of an abstract class? So the answer is no, we cannot create an object of an abstract class directly because abstract classes are incomplete by design. Then interviewer asks, is it possible to create a reference variable of an abstract class type and assign it to a concrete class object? So yes, we can create a reference variable of an abstract class type and assign it to an object of a concrete class that extends this abstract class. This is a common practice in object-oriented programming and allowing polymorphism where methods can be called on the abstract type but execute from the concrete class. Then he asks very important question, explain the concept of coupling and cohesion in OOPs. So in OOP, coupling refers to how dependent modules are on each other. Lowering coupling is preferred for easier maintenance, whereas cohesion describes how closely related and focused the responsibilities of a single module are. Higher cohesion is ideal for better organization and reusability of code. Then he asks, why is it important to minimize coupling and maximize cohesion? So minimizing coupling makes modules less dependent on each other, enhancing flexibility and ease of modification, whereas maximizing cohesion ensures that modules are focused and logical and improving clarity and making the system easier to maintain. Together, these principles help create a robust, scalable, and manageable code base. And then he asks, can you have low coupling and low cohesion at the same time? And also provide an example. So yes, we can have low coupling and low cohesion. For example, a class that handles formatting dates, sending emails, and calculating taxes shows low cohesion because its responsibilities are unrelated. Despite this, if it interacts minimally with other classes, it still exhibits low coupling. Now interviewer started asking Spring Boot questions. First, he asked the difference between Spring and Spring Boot, common question. So Spring is a comprehensive framework for building Java applications and providing infrastructure support for developing Java apps, whereas Spring Boot builds on Spring framework, simplifies application development with automatic configuration, server setup, and dependencies management, and also making it quicker and easier to start and develop Spring Boot application without extensive setup. And next he asked, what are the actuators in Spring Boot? So the actuators in Spring Boot provides production ready features to monitor and manage your application. They offers endpoints for checking application health, metrics, environment properties, configuration details, and many more. Then he asked, how will you ensure compatibility when upgrading to the latest version of Spring Boot? So to ensure compatibility when upgrading to the latest version of Spring Boot, thoroughly test the application using the new version, review the official migration guide for potential breaking changes, update the dependencies, and adjust configurations as needed. Then he asked about the cache in Spring Boot. So cache in Spring Boot are used to store frequently accessed data temporarily to improve application performance. And by keeping data in memory, Spring Boot reduces the need to repeatedly query databases or call external services, and therefore speeding up response times and reducing workload on underlying systems. Next, he asks, can Spring Boot built-in caching mechanism be used in a distributed system? So the answer is yes, it can be used in a distributed system by integrating with distributed cache solutions are like Redis or Hazelcast. These tools manages caching across multiple instances, ensuring consistency and performance improvements across distributed environment. Next, he asked about Spring Security and ways to do it. So, Spring Security is a framework that provides authentication, authorization, and protection against common exploits in applications. It offers multiple ways to secure an application, including form-based authentication, Auth2, JSON Web Token, LDAP, method level security with annotations, and securing REST APIs. Then he asks, how do microservices communicate with each other? This is also important question. So microservices communicate with each other using lightweight protocols using as HTTP, REST, or asynchronous messaging like AMQP or other. REST can be used for asynchronous requests, while messaging system supports asynchronous data flow, enhancing decoupling and scalability by allowing service to operate independently without waiting for responses. Then he asked what would happen if you try to use synchronous communication for critical microservices that have varying latencies. What alternates would you consider? Okay, so it can lead to delay and timeouts affecting system performance and reliability. Alternates, we can use asynchronous messaging or event driven architectures which decouple services by allowing them to communicate without waiting for immediate responses, so improving system resilience and scalability. Then he asked what is Spring Boot application annotation. So Spring Boot application annotation, Spring Boot is convenience annotation that combines configuration, enable auto configuration, and component scan. Next, he asked, can you remove Spring Boot application annotation from Spring Boot application and still have it run correctly? So yes, we can remove the Spring Boot application annotation and still run a Spring Boot application by manually adding those three annotations: configuration, enable auto configuration, or component scan annotation where needed. Next, he asked, what testing tools will you prefer in your project? So for my projects, I prefer using JUnit for unit testing due to its wide acceptance and integration capabilities. For integration testing, Mockito is excellent for mocking dependencies, and Selenium is ideal for automated web testing. For performance testing, I personally prefer JMeter to simulate loads and measure application performance. Then interviewer asks, what are the RESTful web services? Why do we need them? So RESTful web services are services built using the REST architecture, which use standard HTTP methods like GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE for communication. They are needed for creating scalable web application because they allow different systems to communicate over the internet in a simple and stateless manner. Then he asked, what is the difference between RESTful services and SOAP? So basically, RESTful services uses standard HTTP methods and are designed to be stateless and lightweight and making them highly scalable, whereas SOAP uses XML for messaging and typically operates over HTTP or SMTP. It is more rigid but ensures higher security and transaction compliances. Then he asked how to handle exception in a Spring Boot application. So in Spring Boot, exception handling can be centralized using a controller advised annotation to define a class that handles exceptions across multiple controllers. We can also use exceptional handler within the class to handle specific exceptions, allowing for cleaner controller methods and consistent error response management across our application. Okay, then interviewer asks how to call one microservice from another microservice. To call one microservice from another, we can use RESTful APIs calls via HTTP clients like REST templates or web clients in Spring Boot. Basically, these clients help send requests and receive responses between services. For asynchronous communication, we can consider using message brokers like RabbitMQ or Kafka. Then he asked a coding question, and the question was to merge two unsorted arrays and print the merged one in sorted way by using Stream API. I'm not gonna solve this question here, otherwise video would be very longer. I have provided the solution link of this question below in the description. Okay, so guys, this is all about Accenture technical interview experience, and don't forget to check interview preparation kit. Thank you.